Fine. Hi, this is Eddie again, and I'm interviewing people for my motorcycle culture course. So today I'm talking to Nick. Nick, thanks a lot for helping us out with this.
Of course.
Okay. Can we start with, can you please tell me your name and age?
My name is Nick Hanscom, and I am 25 years old.
Okay. And where do you live, Nick?
I live in Central Phoenix currently.
Okay. And how long have you been riding a motorcycle, or when did you get started?
I got started 18, right before my couple months before my 19th birthday. So it's been a while now. I'm
Right.
yeah.
Okay. And so sorry, you said you're 25. So you've been riding 5 or 6 years now.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay,
It's
great.
been a long time.
And what do you currently ride? What is your motorcycle now?
Currently, I have a Suzuki SV650, which is sort of the Japanese Ducati Monster sort of setup.
Okay.
Um,
Nick, that's
and
a
that
that's a that's a sports bike, right?
Yes, a naked sports bike, so no plastics on it. And that's currently getting a frame up restoration essentially. And so I've been last year that's been in pieces trying to find a new motor for it, and everything's painted and been doing all that.
I see. And can you just talk a little bit about why you chose? It doesn't have to be that bike, but a sports bike or that kind of bike.
Yeah, so I started riding in Minnesota, and there's far less of these sort of 80 mile an hour freeways that just doesn't exist up there. And um, doing my reviews and sort of research, I'm very analytical like that. Going into it was these naked bikes. I'm 6'4", so for me to fit on a full sports bike doesn't really work that well.
Yeah,
And I've never really been that sort of that part of the world, I guess. I like sports bikes. I've been on track on them, and I appreciate them as a tool. But the upright sort of street fighter. I can get through traffic. I'm comfy, but also I'm very upright and aware. Led me to that one, and it happened to be sort of the right bang for the buck. And it's a V twin, so it's nice and
yeah.
torquey. It's really fun.
It sounds like, and I'm not familiar with the bike or really the model, but it's when you're sitting upright, I have this mental image of like some BMW bikes. The rider is very much upright and going through traffic. Is it something like that? What we're talking about?
Yes, it's much more of that sort of dirt bike, adventure bike. You're a little more, I have dirt bike bars on it. And so you're very upright. And then the foot peg position is very neutral. So it
I
isn't
see.
the full up behind you. It's very like vertical.
Yeah. Okay. Great. And it sounds like it's a very comfortable ride for you, which is great.
Yep.
Uh, Nick, as you probably know, I mean, some people have some brand loyalty to different brands of
Sure.
bikes. How about you? Do you have loyalty to a particular brand?
I I look at everything sort of vehicle by vehicle. Every brand from Ford to Ferrari makes good cars and bad cars, and so same with motorcycles for me. It really depends.
Yeah.
I have no loyalty. Yeah.
Okay. Great. And how much riding do you do, Nick? Say in a week, how many hours or how many miles a week? Do you ride a lot?
Yeah, before that bike went down, I also have a Yamaha 125 Zuma, which is my scooter. So that's my around town kind of grocery getter. I've gotten a lot of people into riding on that. So since my main one's been getting fully rebuilt during COVID,
Yeah.
less riding overall. I'm working from home now, but when things were normal, if it's below 95, I'm commuting on the bike. So
Yeah.
probably good 300 miles a week between fun and practical purposes.
That's great. I guess I need to ask you about what is going on with that major rebuild quickly.
Y-
What's happening with that and
Yeah,
why?
I've had that same bike since I was 18, and I've put 45,000 miles on it. I crashed it at 70 within the first 2 months of owning it, and it just kept on ticking. I rode it from Minnesota. That's where I'm from. I rode it down to Arizona. So it's treated me really well, and the engine was finally burning some oil, having some issues, and it was like, I'm not mad at you. You've done good. And so, yeah,
So due to some wear and tear, it's time for a makeover, huh?
yeah. So it needs an engine. I've done all the bearings in it, and just I intend on keeping it. I really like it, and yeah, doing all that stuff.
I guess it kind of leads me to the next question. But some people enjoy working on their bikes. I mean, are you working on this, or somebody else is, or
No, it's me. I hate the bringing things back up to what they should be. I like the upgrading. So it has, upgraded suspension I rebuilt front and rear. It's got upgraded brakes. That's all fun because you can see the benefit when you're done. But the just, in this case, having to swap an engine just so it's good again is very tedious to me.
but it's great though. But you have the skills and the know-how. You're able to work on the bike and do the things you need to do.
Yep, and
That's
I've
impressive.
learned on this bike, and so you assemble some tools and have a little space to work on it, and it's a good time.
Great. Um, Nick, have you taken a motorcycle safety course?
I did. Yep. I went into motorcycling with no real riding experience, and then I took the class, and then the next weekend I bought the bike and rode it, 2 hours home. So
Yeah. I
I loved that class. I encourage everyone who's getting into it to do that and have with my friends, and they've gone in not knowing how clutches work, and they've come out, being able to ride. It's very cool.
Yeah, I guess I had a similar experience with, doing a course and learning how to ride. Nick, tell us about what do you wear when you ride in terms of helmet or protective gear, or what do you usually wear?
If I'm being honest, I generally have a 50-50 rule. So it's always some sort of protective footwear, helmet, and gloves is mandatory.
Yeah,
But then either it's sort of lower half or upper half. And so in these winter months, it's jacket and Kevlar jeans, and it's all good. But when it gets hotter, it can be pretty brutal. And so generally, I'll wear a riding pant or my Kevlar jeans, but then I will go kind of t-shirt or dirt bike armor
yeah.
for up top.
That sounds good, and especially riding in Arizona, and the summer temperature is definitely impact what people wear. Okay.
And you sort of end up with like three different kits. I have a
Yeah.
full like track jacket and I have full riding pants. If I'm, going to California, you kind of gear up all the way versus just going around towns. You end up with 8 different wardrobes depending on what you're doing.
Yes, that's a very good point to make. And I guess like other hobbies, people will say that I read this stuff too recently that it's like motorcycling is one of those it's one of those hobbies. It's a hole like sailing. It's a hole where your money goes, and
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 we'd be lying if there wasn't some aesthetic, part to it where you want the cool leather jacket and it's fun to collect things that make you happy.
yes, that's true. Yeah, absolutely, and I'm glad you mentioned that. Um, Nick, your family and your friends, people around you, what do they think about you and riding motorcycles?
I wanted one when I was 16, 17, and it was a complete no-go for my mother. And, I ended up through kind of sports car. I did a lot of autocross and some open track days with that and got
Yeah,
really good with car control. And so then I came back for my first year of college. I had left my car down here, flew back to Minnesota, and it made sense to get a bike. And at that point, they were pretty fine with it. I'm
yeah,
pretty safe. I tend to ride like an old man until it's open roads, middle of the night sort of thing. And so I think they're okay with that. Optimistic and cautious about it, but can see sort of my passion for it and
yeah.
are supportive of that. Maybe not the danger side of it, but that comes with the territory.
Yep. Okay, great. Um, Nick, do you belong to any motorcycle clubs or any organizations or anything like that?
I don't. I only really ride with people I know on like a very a not just motorcycle perspective. I showed up to some of those sort of like calm, quiet meets, and within 5 minutes you're hitting the freeway and people are hitting triple digits, and was like, I don't trust these people. So I like cool people who are into motorcycles. I don't tend to get along with motorcycle people, if that makes any sense.
Yes, that does make sense, and it kind of, well, it's connected to the next question. So I mean, in terms of riding, whether would you say you're a solo rider and you prefer riding alone, or you like riding with friends too, and or a bit of both?
A bit of both. Yeah, my good friends who I trust, and that can be fun for sure. But for me, a lot of motorcycling is adding some excitement to relatively mundane tasks. And
Yeah,
so if I can make a commute more fun, if I can make errands a little more exciting, to me, that's cool. I tend to not have a lot of time to be able to just go ride for 4 days and do big trips right now, which is unfortunate, but
yeah,
um, the day to day is exciting.
yeah. Okay, good. I'm glad you mentioned just that your comment about riding groups or riding clubs. I've only ridden myself, and I guess I'm a little bit interested in riding clubs because I haven't done any longer distance travel. I might be interested in going with a group, but um, I was talking to somebody else who did this interview, and she said I don't ride with anybody I don't know. She has a thing with I need to know people and trust people before I ride with them, and you're expressing a similar sentiment, I think.
I tend to be on some of the more mountain roads. I tend to be a bit of a knee dragger. I think I'm a pretty proficient rider and have done track days and am
Yeah,
good with that. And I have almost been taken out by someone who clearly did not know what they were doing. Mid corner, like full brake, standing the bike up and having
yeah,
to counter for that. So at this point, I need to know people's ability, and if they're less than me, if they're more than me, that's fine. But there has to be that sort of understanding on don't overshoot your capability,
yeah.
do your own thing. I'm not mad if I have to wait up at the stoplight. We're all good there. And
Yeah,
I don't, it's hard to have that with random people
that's
without some context.
yeah. It's a good point to make. Nick, how would you identify yourself? Would you a biker, rider, motorcyclist, motorcycle enthusiast? There's some different terminology, and some
I,
people
I
like
like
different
this
terms.
question a lot. I like this question. I tend to not try to overly identify myself in any one part of my life. So I think motorcycle enthusiast is good. I'm a
Yeah,
nerd about bikes and all that. But to calling myself a biker is not what I lead with in conversations for sure.
yeah. It's interesting, and you hear it sometimes. Actually, somebody told me that he preferred to use that terminology, but it has certain connotations that come with it also.
It definitely does.
Nick, in the course that we're doing, one of the first things we're getting into is just why people ride, and there are different reasons why people riding do enjoy riding very much. So, what would you say is your primary motivation for riding? Why do you enjoy it so much?
I think some of that in current culture, I think it's very easy and very on topic to be sort of afraid of dangerous things. And I find it to I find it to be really worthwhile to master those dangerous things, or at least have an appreciation and respect for them. And so part of it is riding something that I know is dangerous, and the other part is injecting some of that fun into normal commuting tasks.
Yeah,
But really, at this point, it's sort of that feeling. I think there's very few things that compare to sort of that flying to a small degree. It's very interesting.
that's great. Very good, Nick. And so, do you think you'll ever quit riding motorcycles?
Um, you know, I don't think I will. I purposely got one young enough where any women who have been involved in my life have known me as someone who rides motorcycles, and that's been sort of part of the deal. I also could see, Lord willing, I end up with wife and kids someday, and maybe there becomes a time where I have enough money to get a car that maybe ticks some of those boxes, and I can find that balance where it's not too endangering. Maybe I'll go track only at that point. I could see that. You have
Yeah,
a wife and kids, and bike goes on the trailer, and I could see that for sure. But no plans for now.
that's great. And final question, Nick, do you have a favorite or a worst motorcycle experience you'd
Oof.
like to share?
I think my favorite that truly kind of opened me up to it was my first weekend having my motorcycle, and within one gas station stop, I was getting ready to go to work for a summer job. Within one gas station stop, there was a man on like a BMW 1200 GS, big adventure bike, full stickers of Patagonia to all the way to Alaska, that kind of thing.
Right.
And he said, "Oh, I like your bike." And I said, "I just got it. I've been riding for 3 days now." And he put his hand on my shoulder and was like, "Welcome to the club, kid. Like, you're gonna have a good time." And
Wow.
I find it's sort of an 80-20 rule. 80% of motorcyclists are like sort of bad people. It's cheap speed and whatever. But the 20%, if you can find them, are some of the most golden people.
Yeah.
And in that same gas station experience was when Tugan Harley showed up, who said, "When are you going to get a real bike?" Which is always the fun question. But just some of those older, late 50s kind of guys who are still in it and still doing it really well have been really encouraging to me, and always been a good encounter.
That's great, Nick. It's a great anecdote and a great experience that, as you highlighted, it speaks to a couple of different things about motorcycle culture. So that's great. Nick,
Yeah,
thanks a lot for helping us out with this and just sharing your ideas and
of
your
course.
experiences about motorcycling.
Of course. Yeah. Like I said, let me know if I can follow up with anything. I'd be happy to help. This is a very interesting class. I look forward to seeing some of the outcome of it.
Okay, great. Thank you.